Oh, hello, Roses. What, are you here to tell me Alexis has skipped town with my lawnmower?
Roland, these people have literally hit rock bottom. They're not in the mood for your jokes right now.
She is.
Look, I've been on the phone all morning with missing persons. I'm just wondering if you've heard anything?
No. Come in. Come on in. I can't imagine the stress of losing a child.
Oh, I haven't lost him. I know exactly where he is. He's enjoying happy hour at the Viceroy without me.
It's been 3 days without any contact.
Johnny, you wouldn't know this, but statistics tell us you have a 48-hour window before you can assume somebody is dead.
Yeah, I just said it's been 3 days.
Then do we call off the search?
Oh, my God.
I'll get it. Rolling shit. Yes. 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 Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm good. How about you? Terrific. Great. Where? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I got it. Great. We'll see you there this afternoon. Bye. Well, good news, folks. They found the truck.
And David.
Well, that didn't come up.
Why didn't you ask?
Johnny, they were all excited about telling me they found the truck, so...
Call him back.
Call him back.
Call him back.
Well, I don't have the number. I've got the address.
I'm sure David is with the truck, right, Roland?
I think they would have told me if there's a dead body with the truck, honey.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. I love this show.
Thanks
It's
for
nice
having
to have
us.
You. You have a second season here. It aired in Canada previously already, right? And now it's coming to Pop TV.
Yeah, we're about 2 months behind here.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
2 months. We started in January up in Canada, and now we're, pretty much 2 months behind.
I want to talk about where this started and then get to where we are in this season because I never got to interview you guys when you launched the show initially.
Right.
So this is sort of your first show. You're at the helm with your dad, but I see your name as the writer on a lot of episodes more so. I'm wondering what it's like for you to kind of work with your son as the head writer, if you will.
Well, he's actually the showrunner on the show. He's
what's it?
Yes, he's the guy kind of putting it all together. We kind of started out together in our first season, and then I'm riding shotgun right now. So yes, he writes about a few episodes.
But what's that like?
Huh?
But what's that like?
What's it like?
What's
Well,
it like?
that's not what he asked me. He didn't
Yes,
ask-
it is.
It is what he asked me.
That is the
No, I
question.
know it's what he asked me.
Poorly articulated, but
I'm
he's
just
right.
playing to
That's
the
what I was-
crowd here. It's pretty amazing. I'm constantly, in a state of not quite believing I'm working, with my own son on this thing. It's like he's a kind of a legitimate partner, and I sometimes have to remind myself, wait a minute, that's my son. He's not just a great creative mind here.
Do you ever?
Yeah.
Do you guys
We're
ever?
a stranger.
Do you guys ever butt heads?
Sure.
Really?
But ultimately, I think what's been so easy and what's made the process so smooth for the show is that we have a very singular vision for what the show is tonally and comedically. So whatever disagreements, there are, they don't last very long, fortunately, and they don't end in huge screaming matches in front of our lovely cast.
And when you do
It's a
butt
very
heads,
civil.
there's also like a lot of padding for both of you. But with
Banging
dialogue,
heads?
so it's
Butting heads?
not painful.
Yeah.
Talk about creating this character for your father, because I think it is a different character than we normally see him get to play. He's a little bit slicker, even though he's in a situation that doesn't really sort of showcase his slickness. I mean, usually what we get with a lot of times with one of your characters kind of bumbling, sort of the fool in the scenes, but you're not necessarily the fool. Sorry, I don't mean to typecast.
I play a lot. I play a lot of characters that aren't necessarily the sharpest pencils in the drawer.
This one you have a
So
right
to
and a
speak.
left foot. So that's
Yeah.
that's
No, this was It
Well,
was.
I think ultimately, in terms of the character work, each of our cast sort of embodied, the skeleton of what was on the page. But a lot of the characters came into fruition once everyone was cast, so I can't take too much credit for that.
But
obviously,
this character for me is about the straightest thing, I've done in a long time. It actually, because I do love playing the bumbling nerds, the losers kind of, you know what I mean, of the world. I
Looked right
just
at
get a
me
kick
for
out of
that.
doing that. But this is pretty straight for me, and you know, the idea of kind of surrounding myself with kind of, you know, funny characters was an exciting prospect for me to play kind of first time in my career. So that was, and I am loving doing that.
Now, when you're developing a project like this, did you develop it specifically with your father in mind?
Yeah, well,
Right away?
we actually, I mean, I just came up with sort of the base idea, and then I brought it to my dad to work with me on it. And fortunately, he sort of liked the idea, and we sort of built on it from there. I basically had just a more of a premise, which was just what it would look like for a family to lose all their money.
But the interesting thing about that premise of the riches to rags scenario was the fact that it was the idea that reality television, you know, through reality television, audiences were already very familiar with what wealth was, you know, with the, you know, Kardashians, all the way back to the Osbournes, kind of. We know what it's like to be in these mansions like a fly on the wall, and the premise of what if you're a fly on the wall for these wealthy families that find out they have just lost everything, what would happen to the family dynamic? And that was the really interesting aspect of the idea that Dan had.
I still love one of the opening jokes of the show, which is when everyone finds out that you bought the town as a joke, or as a present as a joke, and everyone's like, well, you didn't actually have to buy it. And he's like, no, that's the joke, I bought it.
Yes.
Like, these people with so much money that, like, they have to follow through on purchasing something so trivial and ridiculous.
There
Yes.
was no questions asked when it came to just, well, that's a funny thing to do. Just buy a town.
Jump in.
And how did they make all their money again?
Video store.
Rose
We were a
Video.
video store family, Rose Video.
Like Blockbuster, it was the second largest video chain.
And did that come about because sort of video stores were wrapping up at the time that you were coming up with the idea for this? That would also play into it. It's also a family with incredible wealth that would be around famous people a lot of the time, but would have no sort of impetus to be creative with them or work creatively or work for them.
I don't know if that really had.
Well, I think there was an idea to we didn't want them to be like, you know, American royalty. We wanted them to be a family that, you know, was known, and a lot of that had to do with the video store, you know, going out of, you know, video stores sort of going out of business. This family would have obviously made a ton of money, but they weren't necessarily still in the forefront of people's, you know, cultural minds. So, you know, that was sort of something we had talked about, the idea that they lost a little bit. They sort of came down a notch with the video store world folding, but were able to still coast on a very nice life, but slightly out of the mainstream eye. I guess.
But they didn't lose their money because of the business. It was really about what they lost their money because of their, you know, kind of Madoff-like business manager that literally absconded with everything they had.
Annie, your character going into season 2 right now is in a bit of a love triangle. Do you want to talk about that a
bit of
little bit?
one.
Well, I guess she is in one.
It's a full-fledged triangle. With 3 sides.
3 connected sides.
Only made by her doing. The other 2 guys are like are pretty nice about the whole thing, really.
Oh yeah, Alexis made her own bed and is looking forward to sleeping in it. I mean, it's so much fun to play. Dustin and Tim who played Ted and Mutt are such good dudes. But it's really funny to see Alexis in season 2 starting to feel real feelings towards other human beings, like feelings of fondness and like traces of love that she's never felt before, and seeing her react in the most bizarre way to these feelings through like panic attacks as opposed to just...
Yeah, I think anytime any of these characters, any of the family members experience any kind of genuine human emotion, it's always met with surprise.
Yeah.
Or it's always met with some kind of panicked surprise, like, I don't know what this is.
Like at the end of the first season where your character just runs as far away as possible from the moment that he has with Emily.
Yes, he just identified what loneliness was. And that was a very new and exciting and sad thing for him. But, you know, Alexis is always a really fun character to write because the reason she found herself in this love triangle in the first place is because she was too nice to say no. So the fact that her intentions are good, but by way of her actions, she's actually a pretty undeniably self-absorbed human being.
Who would you say is more self-absorbed?
That's a tricky question.
It's tough
I think
competition.
I think it's an even tie.
Yeah.
We're both like very self-absorbed in our own ways, I guess.
Yeah, painfully so.
You're probably nicer about it than my character, I think.
Yeah, I think mine is my selfishness is slightly more
Unaware.
unaware.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you win?
I guess I win.
I guess you win.
I'm the worst person.
And I mean, I don't know if the worst person, but I would say Catherine is maybe, she plays it up the most in terms of being the worst
I'm my mother's
person.
son, if this is where the family tree sort of falls.
Going into this season, the first season was about them falling into this town, getting stuck there, and maybe trying to find a way out. And the first couple episodes of this new season, it really feels like now it's about them learning how to sort of maybe live there and cope with living there and living with these relationships that they're creating. Does that make sense? Is that where you guys are going with this season?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first season was the shock and horror of what has happened to their lives. And the second season is really about the fact that it looks like they're going to be there longer than they originally thought they would be.
You're trying to set up an office.
Well, I tried it. Well, the premise is
pathetic.
life goes on. You have to get up every day and live your life. You can't just stay in the motel and make believe it's not happening. So you have to get out and things have to be done. So I'm still trying to come up with ways of, making money to get the family out of this situation. And I find that I need a desk. I need a place to work instead of in the motel room. And everybody has to start, looking for work, getting jobs. Money
Very
has to be
foreign
generated.
experience.
The fact that there are jobs to get in Schitt's Creek is
Readily
interesting.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he got a job as a bag boy last year for an hour.
It lasted for an afternoon.
Yes, before he started insulting customers.
But I think that's what's fun with the second season is now that we've been able to sort of cut the tie to that sort of constant need of escaping the town. Now that you actually have these people trapped here, I think we were able to have a lot of fun with building those relationships, and you have the Schitt royalty who now has to really sort of dig in, because they're being threatened in a way. We're around for a while.
There's a singing group that I'm a part of, and Moira joins it in the second season, and that is some really special television.
She encroaches a little bit onto Jocelyn's
does.
space, I think.
Personal space, kitchen, just gets all up in my grill a little bit. So,
And you work primarily with Chris Elliott in the show. I mean, so often. What is it like working with Chris?
it's delightful. He's hilarious. I actually am primarily in scenes with Catherine, I would say more, but I love it working with Chris, and I love doing the foreplay with, I said foreplay. The 4 scenes, 4 top. I'm like waitressing now. I like a good 4 top with Eugene and Catherine and me and Chris. It's always really fun.
Well, with Catherine, I mean, Chris and Eugene, then you have 3 people who are just incredible comedians on their own. I mean, Eugene and Catherine their improvisational work in the Christopher Guest movies is legendary at this point, but you're writing all these scripts. How often do you guys improvise on set, or have you been like, the scripts are where they are, we're just going to stick to that?
No, I think we have been blessed with them and their ability to improvise, and I think for the most part, we try and make sure that the scripts lay a really nice foundation for the episode, and for the most part, we work off of them, but there is a very collaborative nature, I think, in terms of performance, where all of the actors feel sort of free to contribute or build on something that we've written, and I think that's why there's such an ease to the performance style in the show.
Was that something that you had to get used to? I would just imagine if I was doing somebody else's script that it was my family member and they had written it, I was like, I'm going to go off, I'm going to do my own thing here and not what you wrote. I'd be a little nervous about doing that initially.
Well, I think, definitely, let's say Catherine O'Hara, who's just absolutely amazing. And of course, when you get Catherine O'Hara on your project, you're getting more than just an actor reading lines. I mean, she does have great ideas that not only have to do with her character, but about what her character might be doing in the scene that may not have been on the page. And of course, you listen because, 99.9% of the times, it's better than what we had. And I think all the actors on set, if they really have a good idea about what they might want to be doing, or if they have a great idea, of course, we would listen to anybody. We'd listen to anybody on the crew. Anybody that has a great idea, I mean, that's kind of what makes it fun, and we just want to make the scenes as good as they can possibly be. So, yeah, absolutely. And there is a bit of improvising every now and then, which is kind of fun, and usually we end up using it, you know?
Emily, I want to talk about your character. She's kind of, while she's not a central character on the show, she is kind of the gateway. She is the one character I feel like who isn't just batshit crazy for the most part, but like is revolving around everybody. Can you talk about, you're kind of the straight man of the show?
Yeah, I think Stevie a bit stands in for the audience a bit, and gets to watch this family like you do at home. I get to see David come into my motel every day in these ridiculous outfits, and I get to laugh. They don't get to. So yeah, it's the easiest job in the world.
Yeah, I mean, for us, that was sort of the crucial part to write in this show, which was sort of that, as you were saying, the gateway for the audience, some person they could side with while watching the show. That's
someone
like,
that likes them, that seems
Yes.
kind of normal.
Yeah. But also like rolls their eyes and thinks, what the hell?
Yeah,
is going on here?
exactly. At just about every character, certainly the roses. You know, Stevie's reaction to every one of the roses is probably what the audience is kind of reacting like at home. So.
The central conceit of the show, is this very rich family going to this sort of rural area, and the conflict that arises from them being a bit of a fish out of water. Now, after doing the first season, did you worry at all about like the fish out of water jokes running out and having to sort of develop new territory for them to go into, where there'd be new conflicts and new jokes to work with?
I think ultimately it was there's such a naivety to the family, just generally speaking. I think there was
throw anything.
There
at
was
them.
a conscious effort to like not make it sort of a crutch, the fish out of water thing. I think genuinely these people do not know a lot of things. They do not know how to grocery shop. They do not know how to apply for a job.
And they
Cook,
learn
we see
cook.
cooking.
They learn so slowly.
And they
too.
pick up very slowly.
It's like the idea of you want to teach a foreign language to a child because they'll pick it up quick. These people are way beyond.
No, way too far gone. So I think just generally speaking, that has allowed for a lot of storytelling that is not necessarily tied to the fish out of water premise, but just tied to a funny premise. Like, in the second episode, Catherine and I learning how to cook enchiladas. None of us know how to do that. We don't even know how to work an oven. So
I can honestly say I don't know if I know how to cook an enchilada, to be honest with you, though.
in researching it, we actually had to pull up the recipe, and it's not that easy. It's very complicated.
Oh, that's how you do it.
So,
So it was straight out of reality then, really.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't cook anything. I'm a terrible cook. But yeah, I think that's ultimately where that story came from, if we're just sharing personal information now.
Yeah.
Where are you? What sort of ride? Where are you taking your character this season?
I think there's just generally the second season, everyone digs in just a little bit deeper. I hate to use the word deeper on this show, but there is sort of an emotional undercurrent in this season that I think wasn't necessarily as strong in the first, and that's because the first season you're playing with premise. And the second season, I think we really dig into relationships and telling these people's story. And I think the reason why hopefully people respond to the show is because despite how, on paper, unlikable this family is, there's something about them that you almost root for. So I think that's what we're hoping to do with the second season, is just to continue to show sides of these people that you haven't seen before. And, my character gets a job and tries his
As does
best
mine.
at that job, really has delusions of grandeur about it. Alexis gets a job.
Yeah, it's a job where she's forced to kind of retire her short skirts and stilettos. It's not a job she's good at, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a job that she is good at. And then the family starts to realize that they are in fact a family, and what exactly it means to be a family. Like, they've interacted on such a kind of superficial level, and we start seeing like glimmers of maternal instinct from Moira, and
if you can imagine.
Yeah.
Because they've never had to sort of have those instincts.
with
They've
each
never had to
other.
deal with anything. They
They've
could
been
just pay for
completely
it.
dismantled as
Yeah.
a family, I think, up until this point.
But this is getting back to your riches to rags scenario, and the premise of do you think you would run out of ideas about that? That always kind of plays secondary to the idea that this show is about the family learning to be a family, because they were never really a family when they had money. They had very separate lives, and money was the answer to everything. You got a problem? Here, I'll write you a check, and that was it. Now they're living in 2 adjoining rooms in a motel, now having to learn how to be a family that normal families kind of learn when their kids are 3 and 4 and 2, and now we're learning it when our kids are, kind of 30 and 28.
It's really fun to write, like a brother and sister dynamic. I'm in my 30s, she's in her 20s, but writing it like they're 8 and 10 years old is always like a really fun, that's stunted,
They're just learning how to deal with
adolescence.
each other.
Yeah, just not being able to communicate in any mature way with one another is always really fun to write and to play.
Eugene, you've worked with Catherine O'Hara now for quite some time.
40 years.
40 years. What is it like to still work with her at this point? I mean,
Getting to be a pain in the ass, to be honest. No, Catherine is absolutely brilliant, and this happens every time Catherine's name is mentioned. Incidentally, that's how hot she is. Catherine is she's amazing. She's not only an amazing actress, but comedically she is, creatively just explosive. I mean, she can come out with just the most bizarre, odd, brilliant things at the drop of a hat.
so singular. She's such a singular talent. Like the stuff that she's doing in this show, only she could do. When you're watching her do it, you're like, oh, that is Catherine O'Hara doing that right. She's the only person I can think of who can do this.
And that's true, and she just brings so much to her character. The idea of, having wigs with their own names was Catherine's idea, and, that's just what she brings to the character of Moira, and it was absolutely kind of a brilliant scenario, because one of the great things I love about seeing that in that motel room is the wall of wigs that she nails to the wall. It's just the funniest thing, I've ever seen. But Catherine and I know we've been working so well together because I think we have the same approach to our work. We're not innately funny people in real life, but we love to find ways of having, the most creative comic juices come through our characters. So we kind of approach our work the same way as actors approach a role, kind of, and in that way, we're just comfortable working with each other.
Now, I have to ask, before I turn this over to audience questions, since I am such a fan, it's been a while since we've had a Eugene Levy, Christopher Guest movie. Will there be one anytime soon? Are you guys working together at all?
No, we're not. We haven't been. The show's been really taking up, all of our time now. It's a kind of for Dan and I, it's like a 12-month deal, by the time we finish one season and start the next. Chris has just come out with, I think he's working on another movie now, called Mascots, I think. But we couldn't work on that movie. And we have nothing specific planned, and I would not have time anyway right now. But we always said the next time somebody has a brilliant idea for something, you know what I mean, we'll get together and kind of, work it through. And,
Absolutely. Let's turn it over to audience questions. Anyone have any questions out here?
We're going to start with a question from an online viewer. So Monica would like to know, what is it like to film on location in Canada?
Wonderful.
On location in Canada. Well, I mean, it's kind of, we don't film all over Canada, but
we always call it summer camp because
Yeah.
we shoot in the spring going into summer, and it's just, all of us
in studio.
get along.
Yeah.
We're in studio in April and May, and then we move outside in June. So it's usually like, we're in the beautiful
farmland.
countryside shooting on beautiful sunny days.
Except when there's a bug.
Although this guy has a severe issue with everything that flies in the sky, and there are a lot of flying things in June. So we
People
run into
don't know whether you're talking about a bug or a UFO or an airplane or...
You tell them.
What are we
What is it? that I'm talking
Bugs,
about.
bugs the size of you, if
I have. I'm glad we're just getting this out here on
Schitt's Creek, we actually shoot in Schitt's Creek is actually a town called Goodwood. About north of Toronto, and that's where we shoot the show, and the citizens of Goodwood now love being citizens of Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, that's nice to see this season. Like the first season, we'd go out there and we were just doing our thing, and now this past season to see the town's people of Goodwood coming out and being excited to
Setting up lawn chairs.
Yeah, and that's
Well, our first season, of course, it hadn't been on the air, so when we went up to shoot, they didn't know what the show was. They just knew it was called Schitt's Creek, and we didn't know how they were going to react. Are they going to be upset because their town is now known as Schitt's Creek? And because the show was such a bona fide hit in Canada and down here, but in Canada, by the time we started our second season and the show was like already a hit, they were just overjoyed with us coming back. They were
I'm
now
just glad
proud.
that I wasn't there for the pitch to the town. That first initial pitch, one of our producers, I think, had to go and do it, but just sitting down with, the mayor of Goodwood, Ontario, and saying, "Hi, so this is the premise for the show. We're wondering if you'd like to be known as Schitt's Creek from now on."
they're all like self-proclaimed.
Fortunately, they said yes.
What if it's, yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
All right,
yeah.
great. How long? Sure.
Next question.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. You all are absolutely hysterical together. It seems to me recently that Pop TV has stepped up its game as a network, and you guys are a big part of that. How do you guys feel essentially being the face of the network, and do you feel pressure putting out a quality product?
I don't think we feel pressure
No, I think
necessarily, but I'm glad we're kind of the face of the network right now. I mean, it's a young network, and we were a young show, and we were kind of starting out together, which I always thought was, kind of a unique, fun
I think
thing.
generally speaking, it's like TV's really tough right now. And to make sure that you get a season of your show seen, like you have to find the right home for it. And a lot of the bigger networks, it's like, they literally will put on like half an episode of a pilot and yank it off if it's not rating. So to find Pop and to, work with them and have their enthusiasm and know that they were really going to support this show all the way through its season was a really important and great thing for us. And it's a rare thing to find in TV, to have a network with that kind of confidence in their product. So yeah, it's been great. So it's really important for us.
Yeah, they've been very supportive.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Rachel. It's kind of like a two-part question. The first one is, how do you prepare to be like a rich, douchey family? And, how do you research that and stuff like that? And my second question is for Eugene, like, how is it working with like John Candy and John Ritter and all these great, amazing people who are no longer here?
Sorry, who is the second name?
Like Ritter and Candy.
Oh, John Ritter.
Yeah, like how is it to work with them now that they're not here?
Okay, well, the first question, how did we prepare?
How do we prepare to be douchebags?
It
was
took a lot of research.
I mean, a lot of it, from my character in particular, and I think for you and for Moira, a lot of it is costuming. Dan spends so much time throughout the year finding these exquisite pieces of clothing, and I come in my ripped pants and my Converse, and then sit and make hair and makeup, and that's so helpful in creating Alexis for me. And then, there's like a plethora of things on the internet and in social media and pop culture, the Kardashians and stuff. It's like a encyclopedia out there for.
But for us, the big emphasis in terms of character building for this family was really making sure that like their I guess perceived douchebagginess comes from their naivety, comes from their like inability to know what the real world is like. And that was how I think the audience can side. I think the intention was never to make them bad people, but merely completely selfish and oblivious. And that was really, that was sort of the thrust through each and every one of these characters when it came to just trying to encapsulate what that level of wealth would be or look like.
Right. Second question, yeah, it was obviously, great fun working with John Candy. I mean, I had known John for many years. He was a great friend, sweet guy, and so funny. And I also, was privileged to have worked with John Ritter in, I believe, one movie, and we had a great time. And again, just the nicest guy, in the world. And it's true what they say: the bigger they are, the nicer they are. The bigger the star, the nicer they are.
Is that true? Do they say that?
Not in my case, but yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, Tom Hanks, just a lovely, lovely man. You don't get any bigger than Tom Hanks, Yeah. But no,
nice
it was great. I
professional.
had a great time.
If not nice, professional.
Yes.
If not nice, professional.
Professional.
Yeah, well, very professional, but also very nice. Yes. Very nice. Are you talking about me?
They're butting heads
Yes.
again, guys.
Oh,
I'm
me.
talking specifically about
I'm
you.
not professional or I'm not nice.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it.
Guys, I love this show so much. It's so funny. Thank you so much for being here. It's on tonight. On Top,
tonight.
right?
Yes.
Congratulations on another season.
8 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.